Foster Car Finance, proud sponsors of the Hawaii Famalam podcast. Haha, it's right, lad.
Hello and welcome back to the How Are We Famalam podcast with me, John May, and my co-host,
Forgot my name.
Jazz Dickens.
And our very special guest today, who is Lawrence Kenwright.
How are we, Lawrence Kenwright?
How are we,
good.
Famalam?
How are we, Famalam?
Ding dong.
Famalam and Ding Dong.
See, we've already practiced that, and Chase, you cocked that up. It's a pleasure to have you. I've always wanted to meet you.
Well, you have now, finally. Even though you thought my son was my brother, which I am so happy about.
Yeah, he's got that. He's got that in, hasn't he? I thought Lawrence's son was his brother, Danny. I was like, I know your brother. He went, I haven't got a brother. You mean me son? I was like, yeah. I know he's made up.
Well, I have got a brother.
Oh, okay.
You said Danny, so that was a tip.
All right.
Could be putting a face to a name for a lot of people, Lawrence, because like a lot of the guests we have on normally is sports stars, stuff like that. You're very, very successful businessman in the city.
Well, I don't think you can say successful when you're in the middle of COVID. It's a tough time. Very tough.
I know what you're saying. It's like I own a barber shop, and it's by the time this is all finished, is it gonna still be there? Do you know what I mean? It's so I'm mentally prepared.
Is the world going to come back to normal? Are people going to start? You know, certainly I don't think tourism's going to be back to Liverpool for a year. So the game now is about tap dancing to a different tune, which is like we need to make it a hotel exciting enough for people from 2 miles away to come and stay in your hotel.
Yeah.
Which is what we done.
I've seen something like that, Lawrence. You were doing like a private party or something. Was it a private party?
Not during COVID, not me.
No, was it the last one, the last lockdown?
Now, when we were open up again, I think it was the 4th of July, we knew tourism was totally finished. So we had to reinvent ourselves and put an event on the roof.
Yeah.
So the event on the roof would be for 300 people rather than 1,000 people, because it's 16,000 square foot. It's the largest rooftop terrace on any hotel in the UK. So we could only get 300 odd people on the roof, and then we had to try and make sure that they all wanted to stay. So that brings its own problems, as you can imagine, can't it? People being on the roof all day, having a great time. And I think it was Lee Butler put it out on as one event on a Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And he said, we'll just see how we go with the first event. And when I got up on a Thursday morning, he sold out 15 events, which kept us going.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't even think I'd be here.
Is that through being creative and going with the times and what we were now in?
That term, tap dancing to a different tune, is something that I use all the time, because I don't think you could ever be corralled into, we are a hotel and this is my brand and they will come through my door. Well, there's no tourism and no one's come through your door. So you have to make sure that you're recreating yourself, and now recreating yourself every single day. And don't forget, we were changing to different rules pretty much every day. Boris didn't know what day it was, and he was coming out with like, gotta do this, gotta do that. And then before you know it, you're thinking, well, how do we staff our hotels and ensure that customers have got the confidence to come into the hotels and spend money? And I think we've done it quite well. We've done really well up to Christmas, and then he pulled the rug again, which I was quite happy about, to be honest, because health and safety and police and all the powers that be that were coming through our doors actually had a different rule book. So you'd have one set of police coming in going blah, 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 and then licensing come and say 1, 2, 3, and someone else will say you can't do that, and then before you know it, what can we do?
I caught the COVID myself, and I went for a run on social media 10 days after you're allowed out. It was a 10-day period where you can't go out, and then the police turns up at my door. Someone from my community phoned the police, so then turns up at my door and said, well, you tell me the rules, and he didn't know. The police just didn't know the rules.
I think that's probably one of the worst parts of this COVID pandemic that we're going through is I think the way the government tried to turn people against people, neighbour against neighbour, I think is probably the most disgusting part of the whole thing. I think the camaraderie that we had on the first closed lockdown was really good. I think this, blow up your neighbour type thing, I think, it's disgusting.
Have you seen the film George Orwell's 1984?
Sure.
There's a film, and everyone's saying,
I was what was it then? I was 19 then, so I was well into my stride by then.
Before we go too far, what was it like for you growing up, Lawrence? Where did you come from? What part of the city are you from?
So I'm from a street called Dane Street off County Road. 5 of us in it, 2 up, 2 down. The normal thing, you know, the toilet at the end of the 4-foot garden.
Yarden.
Yarden. Went to Walsall. Had a tough school. I think I was the last year when it was all boys, and then when I left, then it turned. I think I stayed there till I was about 15. I left at 15 because my dad was a docker, mum was a shop worker in the co-op. Qualifications just wasn't on the agenda. It wasn't part of my upbringing. You know, my dad would say, "What do you need qualifications for? Be a docker like me." Well, there was 30,000 dockers then, and that was tough. You know, because they were always on strike. You know, feast and famine. You know, one day your dad would come home with a boot full of fish off the docks, and you know, you'd eat fish for a week. It was normal, but it was certainly different to what I used to now. And Allsop was a different school then. It's a much better school now than what it was then. I mean, you got battered there. You know, if you stood out there, you got battered. So, you know, it was tough.
I didn't know Allsop was an all-boys school.
So what am I, born 60, so 1980.
Yeah.
Must be in 81 it turned. But like, you know, have you got any poor stories or anything that you've got when you were growing up? Have you,
Me?
yeah, have you got a poor story?
I've got 3 older brothers and a twin sister. It was first up, best dressed. That's the way it was in our house, mate. Tell you, whoever got up first got the best Lacoste jacket.
The one got the Lacoste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Newlands as the feast and famine, yeah, definitely. Wednesday for us was Jigger day, Gyro day. Wednesday's the best day of the week.
Tough then. But you grew up to, didn't you? I mean, I remember I was the youngest of 3, and obviously all my clothes were pass me down clothes. And this one year, my mum and dad must have forgot about getting shoes, so I had no shoes because the shoes before must have fitted my brother. So I had to go through a wardrobe and get a knee-high patent leather booties with a zip up to my knee and go to school in Allsop and wear them going to school because I had no shoes.
Really?
Yeah. Did I win that? Did
Did you really do that?
Absolutely.
Patent leather boots?
And by the way,
Did you have heels?
hold on. Brown, yeah.
I thought this was a joke.
And by the way, basically rollers on gone by then. Everyone was into pod and kickers then, so there was no wheels on anyone's boots. I wore proper stacks.
Were you getting wolf whistles when you walked past?
I got battered.
But you couldn't even run away in them either.
No.
Bloody hell, wow.
Hit me back.
Did
I win that poor story?
I think you did, yeah.
You and your Lacoste didn't work.
Saying that, no, like, I might be
Lacoste.
I had a pair of mitre, and if you had mitre, you were a fucking meth. And I had a pair of mitre, and they were white. And
Whiter.
my dad, because you weren't allowed white trainees in school, I mean, instead of buying me a new pair of trainees, my dad dyed them black. So I had black. Yeah, and I got full.
Hold on, are you putting that up against my story? My knee-high, patent leather boots up against mitre.
I am not going to beat that story.
I don't feel sorry for you, I'm to make them black.
Yeah, I know. No.
My patent leather had come off. It was patchy patent leather.
No, you used to whiten your trainees. You wouldn't do that nowadays, you remember that? Do you used to do that?
No.
You used to polish your patent leather, that's what it was.
He never had trainees.
So, what sort of like, when you left school, what did you go off to do then?
So I left school at 15 with no quals and got a job shoveling Fuller's Earth, which is manure, in Hartley's Village.
Yeah.
Really awful, smelly, stinky place. So basically where all the refuse, what they had from the crackers or whatever, they dump them in Hartley's Village and we'd have to wait till it sort of decomposed and then it become to manure and then I'd have to shovel 8 ton of Fuller's Earth a day with the rats running over my feet.
What's it called?
Hartley's Village.
No, what was full what?
Fuller's Earth. It's manure.
Oh, right, okay. I've never heard that term before.
So that was, I'd done that for 2 years. Went to college, got a couple of O-levels, and then there was a job. I think I went home one day because every person that worked in that Hartley's Village, they never had no hair and no teeth. And they were like 35. And they'd been working there since he left school. And it was, whatever was in that air, it wasn't good.
It was just an unhealthy environment.
So I went home and I got a opportunity to have a part-time-ish van lad job at Ethel Austin.
Yeah.
So here's another story, because I wouldn't put on this yellow suit that he bought off my uncle who dropped it out of George Henry Lee's. Right. battered me to put a yellow canary suit on to go for my interview as a van lad at Ethel Austin.
Did you have to wear the boots as well?
It didn't match.
Fucking hell.
So I got the job, and it was a 3 months trial as a van lad, and I just thought, whatever opportunity I got here, I do not want to go back to that awful place.
How old were you driving the van at this point?
No, I was a van lad. I wasn't even that high up in the ranking. I was lower than that. I was a van lad. So it was a 3 months trial. Whatever they asked me to do, I ran. I never stopped. And then oh, this is a bit mad. Don't know whether I should tell you this.
Say it.
It's too late, you feel
I don't know whether I can, actually.
We'll cut it.
No, I don't think I can.
You can't do that.
Oh, God. I'm going to
You put it out in the universe now, so...
I don't think I can.
It must be bad,
I know,
because after them boots...
Can you tell us later?
I'll tell you another time.
Tell us now.
So Ron Austin was...
Wasn't it a woman who owned it?
well, it was Ethel.
Ethel?
And she had one knitting shop.
Yeah.
And then Ron Austin took it on and took it into 140. I mean, he was a very, very wealthy guy. He partnered it with Quick Saves, Mason Owen. They were the boys of the day. They ran the city pretty much on the development side. And as a guy coming up the ranks in Ethel Austin's, because I started off as a van lad, I done every single job, and I ended up becoming a buyer at Ethel Austin's.
Yeah.
And the only people to get buying jobs were people who had degrees, and I had no qualifications at all, really. So I ended up becoming a buyer, and I was always the one getting asked to go in and see Ron Austin as the new guy coming through, the one with a bit of tenacity and drive, you know. So I sit there and I'd be shitting myself, He had this big chair, big desk, and this big picture of Liverpool back in the day with George and Rees and whatever, massive big picture on the wall. And he went, and I'm staring, because Dad said, never look at anyone else, just look at them square in the eyes, you know, don't look away, just stare. So I'm staring at him, staring him out, basically. This multi-millionaire, you know, I'm sitting there just staring at him. He went, do you realise, boy, you have a look of dumb insolence? I thought I'd been sacked. I thought, oh my God. And he must have saw that it just took the life out of me. And then he was all right with me then. He was quite nice with me, and then he was talking to me okay. And he must have realised he'd just gone too far and hit me too hard. And then, so I come out of that office with him, and then he seemed to like me. So then I sort of got this buyer's job that I was always after. I was 21, 2, something like that. And then I left and I opened my first retail store at 23. By the time I was 27, I had 32 retail stores.
Really?
450 staff.
What were they?
It was called Yes. Standard for You Will Easily Save. I had them in Leeds and Manchester and all over the place in the end. And I had a factory out in Sri Lanka. So at 27, 28, I was going all around the world buying fabric out of one country, taking it to another country, getting it made up, GMT, couldn't make in trim, and then getting it delivered over to the UK and selling it in my own stores.
Did you? Is this everything you learned from Ethel Austin's?
No, not really. No, Ethel Austin's, I was a hosiery buyer, so I used to buy 10 million pairs of tights and stockings a year, and I didn't know the difference between a tight or a stocking.
You're just winging it?
Absolutely, Scousers. That's what Scousers doing it. And then I got this factory out in Sri Lanka. So I had 200 odd staff there, and I had 450 staff in Liverpool. And then I bought a knitwear factory, brought that to Liverpool. And then I had a very small factory in Liverpool to do just in time sort of manufacturing. So as it sold, first form of EPOS at the time, you know, you have the barcode and whatever, but I'm going back 20, 25 years. And then by the afternoon, we were making the garments.
Wow, that's unbelievable. I suppose it's unheard of to do what you were doing back then, going out to all these countries. Like, what was it like? Seeing these different cultures and going into these different places?
I found it very shocking. So I went to one place called Chittagong, and it was the most disturbing place I've ever been to. So when people say, and I know this is probably going to cause conflict somewhere, child labour, I agree with child labour, and I'm going to tell you why. So when I went to Chittagong, I come off a propeller plane. So been to Sri Lanka, Colombo, done my business there, got on a propeller plane, got off the propeller plane. As I come off the plane, there's a sea of people in front of me.
You on your own?
No, I'm with an agent and with another guy. So the agent goes, taps you the guy, and they leg it. I go, where's he gone? So I I walked through these people, and it was like a scene out of Thriller. Everyone was, like Michael Jackson Thriller. Everyone's all touching and whatever. You're like, what's going on here, So the agent gets a load of coins, throws it. They all go run to the coins and pick up the coins. Get in the car. So get in the car. So I'm in the car. What's going on? These are all beggars. I went, really? Okay. So they got 9, in Chittagong, got 9 set of lights gifted to them by the British government in 1960. And at these set of lights, there are about 20 families that own that place. So as you're getting to the lights, there's babies getting shoved into the car window with no genitalia, no eyes, no arms, no legs, all and the parents had done it to them.
Wow.
In order to beg.
Yeah.
Because they got no other money. So, I mean, I can get emotional about it now. It's really, really disturbing. So, I'm getting through the 9 set of lights. I'm like, this is I can't handle this. I've got kids at home. I don't want, this, I can't handle it. So then we get to the hotel. We're in the hotel room. No, we're thinking, geez, what are we doing here? So then we go to a factory. We go up this spiral staircase up to the top on the 4th floor. As we come out of the factory, don't know our business, whatever. Come out. One guy, it's another guy in the arm. He jumps on the floor and goes into a convulsion, thrown at the mouth. Now, it's an act. It's an act because we're these guys who've obviously got money. We're European. We've obviously got money. We come down these stairs. So we're coming down. Imagine how long it takes to come down 4 flights of spirals. We're connecting with the guys who are coming down the spiral going, he's still going.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes some power. And as we're standing looking at the guy on the floor thinking, Jesus Christ, we'll give him money, but it's obviously an act. Yeah. 4 kids come running around the corner with training shoes on their hands, running, with the legs set behind the neck, flopping behind the neck, staring at me as they run past on their hands. At birth, they've had the legs set behind the neck. And the 4 of them run past us, so staring out, and I went to my mate who was with me, get me the fuck out of here. I can't do this. Anyway, let's keep it nice. So that's why I believe in child labour.
Why were the legs done like that?
To beg.
Did the parents do this for sympathy?
Yeah, I understand that bit. So what would they do with the...
They snap the legs at birth and set them behind the neck. And they run the hands so they can beg. So when people
as
say...
As a trick? As a...
No, for sympathy, for begging?
No, I understand that.
So they sit there outside of a train station, sit there, and
so they've later then had to learn to walk on the house?
Or they would put ants in their eyes and put a cloth over their eyes, and the ants would eat the retina out their eyes.
Wow.
Or they would chop away their genitalia. So when people say about child labour, that's your option. Because it's about getting fed, isn't it? So a lot of parents, not a lot of parents, some parents would have children just to ensure they got a prop.
Yeah, a prop. Yeah, that's it.
To beg. So I always argue the other point, but no one's got the balls ready to come out and say, there's
as
another
soon as
angle.
you said that on a podcast, people, I agree with child labour. People are going to go,
Whoa,
yeah.
yeah.
But when you hear that story, it's going to make them think of it in a different light.
I'm not saying it's all right.
No,
I'm just saying there is another reason to it.
It makes you come back with it when people... I came back anyway, and the lads in the corner were still saying, what are you up to, lad? Nothing, lads, clapping it, lads. And I used to think it's not... I've seen what's out there. It's not crap. We're so blessed.
For sure. We are... Listen, we're in the top 1% of the 1%. You might think we're having a tough time. You've got your satellite TV, you've got your clothes, you've got your food, you've got government looking at you. Wow, around that world, no one's got what we've got. We're the 1% of the 1%. Yeah.
Where were we there?
Interesting story.
You wanted it funny, didn't you? Let's get it funny.
No, but it's... So...
Give me them teeth.
But then, so what you had about 20 shops called, yes?
32.
32, sorry.
Yeah.
So where did you go from there?
Sold them on. Thought I'd retire. Couldn't retire. So I put the money into property.
Did you get bored?
Sort of.
Did you feel... Do you think you'll ever just go, I'm done now? Or is there something inside you? You've got this energy inside you that needs to... Because if you've got we talk about this all the time. If you've got no purpose, you get depressed. So you've got to be doing something.
I'm torn between wanting to get back and working. I don't really care about money. I know it sounds weird.
No, I get it.
I know I've got to earn it, but for me, it's not the be.
It's not your incentive.
But when probably my first major curve of understanding life was this period in my life when I had all this money And then I put it into property and thought, oh, you retire now because other people do that for you. And that will never work in business because you just get ripped off.
Yeah.
So I ended up having a fire in a development site that I had. Banks, it was in 2007-8, just when the calamity of the world crash was on its way. And I lost everything. So I'll never forget the time when I walked up to the door with my key to get into the building site, and the key doesn't work. And I'm trying to put it in about 10 different ways, and I can't get the key to work. And I'm thinking, I've gone bust here. These have changed the locks. Nah,
Is that the thought that was going through your mind?
Yeah, and my stomach's flipping. It's upside down now. I'm going, oh my God. They've changed the locks.
When's this launched? 2008?
This 2008, yeah. So I followed up with my best mate, who was the site manager, who ran the site. And I said, tell me, you've changed the lock. And he said, no, mate, yeah, it's been changed. I said, oh, okay, so can I get in? No, mate, you're not allowed in. Oh, why is that, mate?
Wow.
You've gone bust, and I've been told you can't get in. Oh, Jesus Christ. I've just lost everything. I've just been working 30 years, 20 years for, whatever. And I've walked back to my home in town, and I got to bed, and I couldn't get out of bed. It took me 3 months to get out of bed. And then my daughter was in Merton Taylor's, so she was private school. And clearly, I'm having a tough time because, I've just lost everything pretty much. And my daughter comes on the phone one day. This headmistress has put a phone in her hand and said, tell your dad why we're throwing you out of school today. So I've got on the phone and I've gone, oh, okay. So I phoned my best mate up. And I said, look, whatever you've got, I'm really sorry to ask. Can you lend me anything? So lucky enough for me, a really good friend of mine, come down, give me X amount of thousands of pounds to go down, pay the school fees, which they did do. And that is the fuel.
Did that break your heart?
Oh, it killed me. It kills me now. Killed me. My daughter's 26 now. She's great. She's got a degree. Everything was fine in the end. But for that time to have let your family down. I mean, you can do anything in life, can't you? You can let anyone else down.
It's the effect that would have had on your daughter, isn't it?
Well,
that's the bottom line.
It's behind your front door, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anything that goes on in life can stay out on the street. You can deal with it. As long as you've got that safe bastion of your home where you can come and sit down and go, got my kids, got my friends. Forget about it for a bit.
Yeah, but it affected
If it's behind that door, then there's no escapism. And when you don't have escapism, I think that's where you really find the mental issues come home to roost. So I stayed in bed for 3 months. I was really, really lucky that the administrator that was brought in, I wouldn't say they took a shine to me. We had like a love-hate relationship. But again, that thing, what I used to do when I was a van lad, and I would run around like a lunatic to make sure that everyone knows that I'm the guy to ask, so I made sure I was the guy to him. So I become very subservient to him. And then we started buying the units back one by one. And at the time, I couldn't even turn a computer on, so I taught myself how to do content writing, PPC, websites, build websites, just taught myself the whole thing. So when we bought back the units one by one over the 2-year period of the administration, so I bought them actually back.
So was that your thing, or want it back?
Yeah. So, but no use getting it back, otherwise it's a poison chalice, isn't it? Unless you have a reason to use it for something. So I done all this content writing. So at the time, there were lots of hotels. I think in 2008, Liverpool had 2,500 hotel rooms. They've now got nearly 9,000 hotel rooms. So Liverpool has grown from what was the worst economic environment to become, a major tourist destination. And I think I've sort of grew with them and helped them along that path. We've got 2,500 people.
That's got to be Liverpool's main draw now.
It is its only draw.
Yeah.
Tourism. So I sort of, because I learned about social media, content writing, PPC, blogging, all that sort of stuff, I learned how to dominate search term. So when some people are saying, I want a party apartment, I would dominate party apartment. So you go on Google, I would dominate that. If people said, party hotel, party night out, I would dominate them search terms. So I learned all that sort of stuff. And then before we knew it, we had like maybe, 2 apartments which were larger than normal that you could put loads of beds in. And after about 6 months, they were full for 9 months in advance, when normal apartments with 2 beds in were full for 3 weeks in advance.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Like, I remember when you first started there, and I'd never seen nothing like that before.
No.
Was this original? Or would you
This
was your original idea?
Yeah.
Because everyone's sort of, you know what I mean?
Copy me.
Yeah. So this was your original idea?
Of course.
Yeah.
So because I had this fuel, because I just lost everything, my work ethic was beyond anyone else's. So I'd be up at 4. I still do it today. I do all my emails at 4 o'clock. I get stuck into whatever I need to get stuck into before 9, and then my day's my own to get on with what I need to do in order to push the business forward. So when we created these party pads, which is really weird, really, because we bought these 12 units back from the administrator, which was a huge success for us. And then I sort of stumbled on this party thing where there was 12 people in a room, and it was booked out for 9 months in advance, and normal hotel rooms are only 3 weeks in advance. I thought, wow, that's something totally unique. And rather than jumping in the same garden as all the other hotels, which were getting more stacked with more hotels, why don't we just create our own little garden and create our own tree? And hopefully that tree will blossom into a different sector.
Yeah.
And that sector now is well on its way. I actually believe, because of social media and because it is far easier now to be connected than ever before. And if you think in 5 years' time, we're going to be super, super connected. So if you had a stag do 20 years ago to be 5 year going, you have a stag do now, there's guys from university and guys from universities, mates want to come that you've never even met, who comes from now your groups now.
I'm still in contact with people I met on holiday 10 years ago. I'd never seen them people again. Do you know what I mean?
If you never had social media.
Exactly.
So when you say, I'm getting married, I'm going to wherever, you get the odd ones on social media going, you know what, do you mind it? But I don't want to come with you. Can I come with my...
Yeah.
And then the three of them come. And what happens is when I'm sitting there in the Shankly and I'm looking, watching everyone, I know it sounds weird, but I do. When they come in, and they're all shaking each other's hands for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're... Wow. Hold on, you're sharing the same room here.
Yeah.
You don't even know each other. So it was a phenomenon. So then, as I'd done the 12 apartments, a local company called Iliad, David and Terry, good mates of mine, come to me and said, you don't know us, but we like what you're doing. Can we help you? So they gave me 2 sites and funded it. So don't forget, I've just come from a really bad place, where I couldn't get funded for anyone. I've just lost everything. And they're going to fund me, so they really, really helped me. And they come along, and I created, on Bold Street, a 12-bed, a 16-bed, an 18-bed, and a 30-bed. Never been seen before. And the 30-bed was booked out for 12 months in advance.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that changing? How was it going? How was it changing? Now you got a 30-bed room. What are you seeing different to what you were seeing when it was?
Well,
you created a concept. You created this new idea that people.
Yeah. Well,
but is the audience changing? The people you.
Well, so what's happening is.
Hello. Sorry, go on.
The audience isn't believing it's changing. The sector is being changed by social media. And hotels, if you think about hotels, they haven't changed in 100 years. How you book it has changed, but that wasn't them. That was some other bright spark. Hotels, as they are operated, hasn't changed. So I believed, just like taxis, would have loved to have come up with the idea of Uber. So it comes along and it just whips its legs away from it. Yeah. Same with this. Is 2 people the main game? No. Because if you're 25 years of age, you don't want 2 to go away 50 mile. You want 15 of you to go away 50 mile. And it's the experience and the memory is why people come back.
And it complements a night out. It's what you do after your night out.
It's all about the memory, experience and memory. Wow. So people now, especially with COVID, the new drive towards that bucket list experience, I ain't wasting my life here. I want to make sure I've got it plotted. And I think that's the new world. So people are going to say, I'm not just going to go to a hotel. Think about it. Why would you want to go to Travelodge? It's a bed. Or come to Shankly or Dixie or whatever and have an experience. Now it's my job to make sure that the bed's just an afterthought, whereas the other ones, that's the main gig.
Yeah.
With us, I'm going to give you a unique experience. Now, no one in the world's doing it. They might do an IB, they might do it in certain places. They sort of stumble across it. That's our ethos. I'm selling you an experience. And it's an experience that you can boast about. You get your phone out.
Yeah.
Look at me, click. Well, I'm winning, Annie. They're winning.
Yeah.
I'm giving them that boastful play. Yeah. So because I learned how to do the social media very early on, and I also designed all the hotels and built them, I knew I would put in 3 sharp edges to every room.
Go on.
Sharp edge would be where, let's say I've got 10 people in a room. I've got them all night. And they're going to stay in the room because they don't want to leave. So you stay in the room. It's got a big Roman bat down the middle, all kinds of madness going on. They're going to take 5 pictures and a video each, aren't they? Pretty much. I've got to give them that boastful play. So the sharp edges lead to the boastful play. So the sharp edges are wings on the wall, flowered wall, whatever it may be. And then the boastful play is you standing in front of the wings and get your picture. Where are you going to send it? Social platforms. Who's going to see it? 500 of your mates.
Yeah.
So that's 500 times 5 pictures, 2,500 times 10 people in that room. It's 25,000 people per room per night seeing you saying, I love this because I'm boasting about it. So you've already jumped over the garden fence. Is it acceptable? Whereas if I went on TV and I went, I've got something greater, you go, oh, you're being commercial, you're trying to sell your own stuff. No. This is you, without being connected to me, boasting about your accommodation, where you're staying, which then free flows into their garden, and they go, I want to go there.
Yeah.
So it's a mind play.
Make it look like it's their idea. I think we might learn a thing or two from this fella. Clever, it's great. Bravo.
You stumped, aren't you?
No, it's great. It's great. All right, Lawrence, what it is, we're trying to get our podcast out there.
People are paying you to advertise your business. It's unbelievable.
But I'm giving them that boastful, I'm giving them that unique experience, aren't I? So when they come back to Liverpool, they're going to say, do you remember that room we stayed in when we were all together? And that unique experience will stay with them forever. And they'll boast about Liverpool forever. Yeah. As opposed to, do you remember the time we went to London, we stayed in Travelodge? Can you remember what the room looked like? What did we do? Can't you remember? So it's a sharp edge.
What gave you this mentality, Lawrence? Not to start here, but to start at the top? To start.
Do you think I started at the top? I still think I'm at the bottom.
No, but I mean, like, what you're doing is in the future, isn't it? You could have started where we could be doing what the other people are doing, but you're doing something different in the future, aren't you? Thinking.
I think if you've got any chance of success, and you know, let's face it, business is the hardest gig in town. There's nothing harder than business. You know, you got to pay that, PAY, tax, corporation tax, wages, rates. You know, Jesus Christ, you know, like it's just tough. So you've got to give yourself that edge, and it's better to plan for a future garden that will be expanded into than one that's already been trampled on. And, you know, if you want to jump in and just give a bed and a pillow, good luck. You want to go and say, I'm giving you a boastful, unique experience. Because now that unique experience is really where money is. I would say connectivity is more valuable than gold. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I put in 20 people into a room and I get 20,000 hits off that one room. And I might get 400 people that want to come and stay. Now, if that was Booking.com doing that for me, it would cost me 15% of that booking, at least. So that's 400 bookings I've just got. Say, I'm being very rough. Which on average, an average booking is 100 quid, say. So some clever person at some stage is going to quantify connectivity. And if you like, you've got it now, haven't you? What is Facebook? It's worth, I don't know, 900 billion or whatever it's worth. It has no assets. That's based on connectivity.
Is that where the value of that is?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
You know, Apple, apps, connectivity. All these values are all based on connectivity. So connectivity is the new gold in my view.
So it's a currency to have that?
Of course it is. Of course it is. And it will play out soon. So I knew that.
That's what I'm saying.
10 years ago. But when you think about it, it's obvious, isn't it? If connectivity gets you money, there must be a value to that connectivity, mustn't it? Mm-hmm. The problem is, how do you evaluate what that's worth? But they're doing it now. To give a valuation to Facebook, you're giving a valuation to connectivity only. And they've got a multiplication on their profits of, 20 or 30 times. Whereas Marks & Spencer's might only get 4 times their earnings. But Facebook might get 30 or 40 times their earnings because that's seen as future-proofed. So bricks and mortar, as it used to be, doesn't get that much profit out of it anymore compared to connectivity. Connectivity is 10 times more. Boohoo.com, we're 3 or 4 billion. It's an online business. All these businesses are all online businesses. They're selling connectivity.
Did they start online, these businesses?
Do you know, like years ago, Marks and Spencer's had £4 billion worth of assets and had a stock valuation of £4 billion. But
Say that again, sorry.
Years ago, Marks and Spencer's had assets of 4 billion and had a stock valuation of 4 billion.
Right, okay.
So basically, if you bought Marks and Spencer, you're basically getting it for nothing. Whereas somewhere like Boohoo is worth 3.5 billion, well, 4 billion. I don't know what it's worth. I haven't looked, but it's worth that, and it hasn't got a single asset.
Yeah.
Based on connectivity.
So how would you value it going into? How would you put a price on this connectivity? What is it? Is it?
Well, it's there, isn't it, to be seen, because you've got companies there getting 30 or 40 times earnings on connectivity, as opposed to bricks and mortar retailers who, let's see, where's the future in a retailer if the bricks and mortar? Look at it. It's devastation on the high street.
Yeah, that's the way it's going, isn't it?
It's almost like if you're a fund manager and you've got all your money into retail, you'll be seen as an idiot.
Where do you think it's all going to go then, Lawrence? Regarding retail and stuff like that? Eventually. How do you see the high street?
So I think the high street will be a lot more in F&B, food and beverage, restaurants, bars. And I also believe the main players, which we need to march out of the country, by the way, the Amazons, I believe, will then go the other way round and have their showrooms on the high street. That's what's going to happen. Amazon should be marched out of the country because they don't pay any tax here. Anyone who doesn't pay tax here should be marched out. So I think the government, but they won't, but the government should turn around. The Labour Party hopefully will do, and should say, like tax avoidance, 100 billion, no one truly knows. But London is the tax avoidance centre of the world.
Is it, yeah?
And let's say there's 100 billion of tax avoidance just for the UK, never mind the rest of the world, that goes through London. 100 billion plays for your NHS, your police force and everything.
Lawrence, have you seen a film called Greed with Steve Coogan?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's on Philip Green.
But he starts off a similar... Yeah, the very one was like...
Green, who did own.
Yeah,
lost it.
always like Top Shop and all that, wasn't it?
Just lost it, yeah.
And that's what he talks about. He starts off in retail, selling clothes, buying clothes, going to like Sri Lanka, blah, 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 blah. But then they get him in court, don't they, because of paying taxes. And he's dead cocky, but he's fucking clever as fuck. And he turns around and goes, no. He says something like, no, I don't pay taxes, but everything I do is completely fucking legal to the laws that you've given me to abide to, which is right, isn't he? But that's what you're saying.
Where he went wrong, because I know, I've met Phil. And I feel sorry for him, and I also dislike him a lot as well for the way he's been. He is gregarious and he's gone over the top, Philip Green made a huge mistake in that meeting.
Right.
And that was MPs.
Was that pretty much all based on him, was it?
That is, apart from the end when he got hit by a tiger.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. Everything else is very factual. And what he done wrong, and his biggest mistake, apart from his arrogant tone, it sounds like a dislike. I don't dislike him. When he sat in that hearing and he looked at an MP in the eyes and he said, on telly, live on telly, 4 hours it was, he looked at him and he went, who are you looking at? You make me feel very uncomfortable. Stop staring at me like that. Now that was saying to the establishment, F you.
Yeah.
And that's when he went down. At that moment, even though it was years ago, you can't take on the establishment, you can't.
Because there's nothing down
or
there.
Or if you do, be prepared. Have your hands up. And it won't be enough.
Where'd you get this? The first time I met you, Lawrence, was you were running the homeless shelter. What was the place called?
Kingsway House.
Kingsway, and you and your wife were sitting there with the homeless people as if you just turned up to do charity. It was amazing to see you so humble with these people. Where'd you get the time to do all these stuff as well as give back? That is a big part of what you do, isn't it? Giving back.
There's a story behind that. I'm a Scouser through and through. I've had the toughest time with anyone. But then I think a lot of people think, oh, he's at Hotelier. He's loaded. What's he know? A lot. So what I was embarrassed about was, I have underneath the Shankly Hotel, I have 3 floors of car park, and it's really warm during winter. And this one day I was throwing out 6 drug takers, homeless. And as I was sitting up to the top of the sort of car park, the cold was biting my face. But like, I've got a conflict in my mind. I'm thinking, Joe Ando, who at the time was my mate, certainly not my mate now, but it certainly was then. We're amazing in Liverpool. We've gone down from 20 homeless people to just 15. Aren't we amazing? And I think that's true. And he's saying to me, all these homeless that are there now, they're professional. They're not real. And I sort of believed that. Why not? He's the expert, I'm not. I don't know anything about homeless. And as I'm throwing these 6 out, and the cold's biting my face, I'm thinking, something ain't right here.
Half of the homeless city right there.
So I sent them back down, got them food and whatever. Felt really bad about what I was thinking of doing because it was bitter. And I think it was 2016, 17, whatever it was. And it was December and it was -5 outside, so bitter. I mean, like, whoa. So I basically got them all the food and whatever and got all the staff together. You know, we employed, or did employ about 1,000 people. God knows what we employ now. And within an hour, we opened Kingsway House. Well, Kingsway House was just a room, and we put the radiators on, we put all beds on the floor and whatever. We had loads of mattresses and whatever, put them all out. And one by one, homeless people were coming. Now, they were coming in with ingrained dirt. Some of them had, because they inject the groin. So when they inject the groin, they get abscesses. They don't get fixed, they're on a 3-hour spin. Yeah. They got to have it, you know, after 2 hours, like the frenzy, they want to get back on the gear again. So as they're coming in, you could smell decay. And I'm like, what's this?
Flesh.
What's going on? So like, kid comes up, 23, 24. Next to a guy, Mark, who's in a wheelchair. Mark's about to lose his other leg. He's lost his first leg through injecting his groin. And as this kid comes up, nice looking kid, beard, you know. What's that? He went, I've got a bit of an abscess. Let's have a look. Right by his groin, dropped his kecks. Maggots.
Wow.
Maggots growing out of his decaying flesh. I'm like, what the fuck's this? You know, like, wow, and it hit me hard. And as these people are coming in, they're lying full bodies on the radiators. I mean, literally, and they won't move. I'm going, what's going on? This can't be right. 18 the first day, 30, 40, 50. We had 65. Then one day we had 84. And every one of them ingrained dirt.
So you were genuine, like, yeah.
Oh, it was heavy. Honestly, it was the heaviest experience. I'm like, this can't be right, this. In our city, can't be right. 80, and then we were feeding 150 a day. At the time, the Echo were talking about me running for mayor. Mm. And they put a piece in the paper. And I believe Joe Ando saw this as a move. It was not a move. It just wasn't. And it just devoured me. And then we got it. Jesus Christ, did he come after me? Oh. And I'm going, guys, you know, when whoever turns up, I mean, police, you name it, they were all there. Guys, this is about warmth and shelter. It's -5 outside. I ain't throwing no one out. If anyone dies in here, you will be done for corporate manslaughter.
Wow.
I'm like, really? Go on. Go.
The people were getting a sense of community, weren't they? They were getting like a sense of community. The crime was definitely going down.
It was unbelievable. You know, to see, now, homeless people, that's going to sound wrong, this, hate each other. You took my fiver, that was my corner. You took that's my gear, you got my gear. You owe me from last week. There's murder all the time with them. To see, and there was one major guy, Brian, Mr. Old Old Street, we call him, and he's to this day, he's a good mate of mine, you know. He still lives in one of our places now. He's lived there. I look after him. But he's my mate.
Yeah.
And he was living on Old Old Street in a doorway of the Echoes, and the Echo were throwing him out all the time because it was a fire exit, but it was the only way you could get any shelter because the howling wind down at Old Old Street's horrendous, isn't it? You know, it's really cold. When it's cold, that's the coldest place in the city. And then he came in and he wore this hat, and he just took me out, you know. Went, wow. He was 8 stone at the time.
Was he?
Yeah. He's about 16 now, 15 stone, something like that. Forget. So we took a friendship to him. Now he'd been on gear for 35 years, and overnight stopped. And I went, wow, okay, so what can happen? And then before we knew it, we had about 10 or 15. Your dad will know. We had about 10 or 15 come off gear. I'm not saying they don't fall over and scrape the knee. Of course, they'd fall over and scrape the knee. They've been on gear for 20 years. They just left them in doorways. You know, all this crap about no second night on the street. What a load of bollocks that was. So I was getting fed with all this. And then when I actually took it in myself and seen it, I was devastated that they didn't let me know the truth. Yeah. And I even sat there one day in a council meeting. I went along just to have a little look. And they all got up and applauded themselves because the homelessness had gone down from 20 to 15. They got up and applauded each other.
There's 15 homeless people in the city at this point. How many was you housing? Was this
so now the government have give quite a lot of money. And I've got to be honest, I think the council are doing quite a good job. I really do. I've got one homeless person that I'm looking after at the moment with his dog. His name's Kevin. He lives in the car park at the moment, and we look after him well. But apart from that, you know, I'm not seeing it. So this extra funding coming from the government has really helped. And I do think the council is a different place now than what it was under Joe's regime. That's not me having to go with Joe. That's just me telling him.
Can you see a change there already?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the way the council was run before was more like a kingdom than what it should be as a council. And I think now, hopefully, the council will get its shit together and act the way it should act, and not what I call malfeasance. So a lot of councillors come after us, without mentioning any names, to put us to pasture because of what we've done with the homeless. And that legal term is called malfeasance to cause harm in a public office. That means that they've used their powers, and which are heavy, by the way, to close down our business, of which they did. You know, they closed down James Street. They came after us on many, many sites. And it was definitely a coup to bring us down. And, you know, we're here today, but only by the thickness of our fingernails. We want to laugh, don't we? What's going on? It's getting a bit sour, this.
It's interesting.
It's
so
not,
interesting. It's
Sure.
really interesting.
It's dead interesting, like, just, yeah.
There's another podcast in that.
Yeah.
And how the council should be run.
Hopefully, there's a place there for you, Lawrence.
No,
for our people?
no. So just let me explain this one thing, and then we'll move on from it because it really winds me up. I am not one of them. I was invited to be one of them. I was offered £100 million fund by the council, and I said no. That's when battle lines were drawn.
To do what, Lawrence?
They wanted to become my funder. When I bought Shankly, what was then Millennium House, from the council, unbeknownst to me, Joe didn't put it out in the public domain. Nothing to do with me, by the way. That's not my job to put that out. He didn't put it out in the public domain, and therefore a lot of people thought it was a backhanded deal.
Yeah, it was all on, yeah.
But the thing was, there was a CBRE valuation, and I paid $3.25 million, which was the valuation. So I've done nothing wrong. But the shit I got from it was really...
When
really,
you were the one buying it, really, yeah.
really hit me. Now, what's going on now with Joe is about people gaining properties for naught. Now, there's no land in this country that's worth naught. So that's nothing to do with me. I'm not getting involved in that, and I'm not saying anything about it. But what I am saying is, mine wasn't one of them deals, but I didn't like the ill wind that followed. So I decided never to do it again. So when Joe offered me a fund between 10 and 100 million to look after our funding for our expansion, I said yes. We had a meeting. It was all minuted, all done. The next day I woke up at me 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I sent him an email. Still got the email, and I said, thanks Joe, but no thanks. I don't want anyone to ever say that I've got Liverpool's money. And I said no to it. Little did I know that me saying no to him then, although I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that with the homeless shelter, with the fact that the Echo put me out to be a possible to run for mayor, I think at that point Joe was gone.
Were you getting too powerful? You were getting too
I think
influential.
he was, I don't think I was too powerful. I think the possibility.
You were a threat.
Yeah, I can chat. I can talk. I understand my game upside down. I understand how to create narrative. I understand how to bring in investment. I understand how to employ. That's the gig, innit? Whoever brings in the narrative, the investment, and the employment is great for Liverpool. And I think he knew I knew that gig. And I don't think he liked the fact that I knew better needed. Anyway, that was a while ago. Since then, they've bludgeoned me to death. Since then, I mean, you know, the Echo ran 85 negative stories of me.
Have they?
Yeah, 85.
The Echo, I if I ever achieve something, it's never in the Echo, but I would like to think that I've done something wrong, because I know it would be. It's like that, innit? What's it like for you, Lawrence, to see that? To wake up and, you know, you're in the paper for something that is wrong?
It's really interesting when you have someone as powerful as Joe. Joe, to go to war with Joe is like me going into war with a peace user. And you know, to go into war against the council with all the armament that they've got, health and safety, building control, planning, all these things are all tools to cause harm to me. And they did. And then on the other war front, they have the Echo that get 1.4 million a year from our council. As far as I know, the highest paid local newspaper from any council.
Do they? Okay. Right, that's interesting, isn't it?
So there you have a war on two fronts against a Scouser that only tried to put a homeless shelter together. And actually, the powers that be saw it as an affront on their leadership.
Is that where it all started then? Of course. So you felt like they felt like you were stepping on their toes a little bit, just with that.
Think about it. Think about it.
It's embarrassing for them.
Well, so Joe's gone now. Joe's never coming back. And whatever happens with the police, happens with the police. I thought Joe was the most amazing leader, by the way, when he first got into power. I mean, I really was in awe of the guy. I believe in entrepreneurial socialism. I believe in entrepreneurial business that gives back, not takes from the government, like a lot of our businesses do. And I mentioned it a little before about not paying tax and whatever, something I really dislike. And Joe had that social conscious, but also that entrepreneurial spirit. And in the early days, he helped me a lot with James Street. When I bought James Street, I had a conservation officer that really wants to string me up because I'm very quick in what I do. And they're not used to that.
Yeah.
And he closed us down on James Street. Joe helped me get it back open the next day. So he was someone that, I couldn't speak to him directly at that time, I didn't know him then. But he would put me in touch with the people I could.
He was willing to help those who were...
Yeah, and he was, honestly, I can't tell you how good he was.
Willing to help themselves, if you like.
Where he went wrong, in my view, is he was surrounded by the wrong people. And I don't want to say any more than that, because I think it's going to come out in this in his arrest. But I wish him no harm whatsoever, even though he's caused me plenty. Anyway, where's your teeth?
Moving on. It was very interesting to hear that. It was nice. It was good. It's a different take on our podcast as well, isn't it?
Mind blown.
So,
Yeah.
What does the future hold for you, Lawrence?
So I think that the first thing is look no further than the battle ahead. The battle ahead is how many people will be employed when we come out of this debacle. When will it be? We're opening sometime in March. We've opened 2 hotels in the middle of this pandemic.
Okay.
We opened Raynell Hall and Dixie Dean. I've got another one in Preston that we've been working on continuously. It's a mini Shankly with a rooftop and all the same stuff what Shankly's got, but it's in Preston.
Shankly?
Yeah, it's another Shankly. Yeah.
So Liverpool themed hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
The Shankly Preston?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's where Bill played. Yeah. So there's a connection.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then on top of that, I've probably got about another 4 or 5 sites that I'm going to try and get on with. I mean, at one point, I think when we went into Brexit and then, which was a horrendous Brexit in its own right, and then we went into this pandemic, I think we had 17 building sites on the go.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how tough that is. And the hotel would feed those building sites.
How do you deal with
I
that?
was going to say that then.
I get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed if there's washing in the fucking wash basket.
I get overwhelmed if my bed's recorded over curry.
I can't cope to do the dishes, Joseph. But I go, how do you cope, Lawrence?
I think you get immune and get used to various things. But don't get me wrong, this has been horrendous, really tough. And we're not out of the woods yet. We're well on the way. It's been a really tough start to the year. And not so bad towards the end, but it doesn't mean that we can't fall over again.
Once we got that bit of a break during lockdown, and we sorted to start come back, did you find?
Yeah, when we opened up again, the Shankly and others were full.
Yeah,
and no one else was. So we know we found the right remedy to fix the problem.
Yeah,
which is tourism isn't here, so
Yeah.
you have to reach out to the locals, which we've done, and. Everyone loves coming to the Shankly and having a night out and whatever. The problem is that when the government makes it that sort of sterile where you can't have that many people mixing, that makes that really tough. So it depends when we open up again. What tier do we open up? And by the way, who knows what a tier means anyway, because he changes the rules within each tier anyway all the time. So no one truly knows where we're going to be.
Yeah. So you're doing it for the people of the city more so. Well, it's going to be, yeah. Is that right? It's like trying to draw the people from the city into the city, if you like.
Yeah, I think...
Sorry, I worded that wrong then.
If we don't keep our city centres vibrant and alive, and you pulled this point in before, that we are a tourism city, then what have we got? Mm. And then what we'll find is an awful lot of jobs will go. And I'm very much about employment, me. I really believe in creating the narrative to bring in the investment to create the jobs. That those 3 tiers are really important. And what worries me is the next leaders that take over, are they the same cabal as the last? And I think sometimes that the politicians that we have at our top table are there through friendship, not through skill.
Yeah.
So in other words, you've been putting leaflets through the door for the last 20 years, and I know you're never going to go against me, so therefore I'll put you on top of whatever, and you get an extra 15 grand on top of your wage as a councillor. And I think we should have the best of the best. And the best people, you know, if you're head of housing, you should be an expert in housing.
Yeah.
And I don't think we have that. And that's not to have a go at anyone who's head of housing, by the way. Sorry, Barry Kushner, by the way. I didn't mean you.
People aren't. People with them strengths are not in them positions, if you like.
If you was this person in this position, what would you do? How would you?
If I was in what position?
The head of the council and or you was the mayor, what would you do for the city? What would your vision?
I think there's going to be a negative strand to Liverpool over the next couple of years with all the fraud and corruption. I think you have to create big enough noise to deviate away from that. So you would create a new narrative based on our skill set, music, football, Mersey, all the great things that we have got going on. Beats Manchester, doesn't it?
Yeah, because we have got a lot of
we got
creativity,
Beatles, they got Oasis, they've got a canal, we got the Mersey, you know, we beat them.
Yeah.
So, but they have twice as many hotel rooms as what we do. So that gives you the narrative to what size they are to us. They're double our size. I think we can beat them. But you have to create the narrative to bring in the investment. Now, this is key, this. The more investment you bring, the more jobs you create. Now, make me out to be an arsehole owner of a business. And I put out a job at £10 an hour. And I have 1,000 people going for that job. Next time I put out that job, I'm going out at 9, aren't I? Because there's that many people wanted that job.
Yeah.
Now, go the other way. I put out a job at 10 and 5 people come for that job. Clearly, I haven't got enough to pick from. Next time, I have to go to 12. Which means you have to bring in investment so more people are employed. The more people are employed, the higher the average wage goes up. Fact. If you do that in a world of AI, in a world of less jobs, if you do that, then you win. I can't be the mayor because I'm not I'm a Labour member, but the political and the business elite who have been drinking from the same trough for a long time, let's not go into that detail, do not accept me and never will accept me. And that's the problem.
Well,
oh, you're speechless, what's going on?
Yeah.
I love it. No, I'm not speechless. It's not that we haven't got nothing to say. It's just like, it's like this is cool.
One thing I have thought of, Elon, is how your mental state going through all this, what you're going through, this taking on this stuff, the mental state. What do you do for your mental well-being? I can see you're in good shape. What type of things will you do for your mental well-being to give the people an idea of what you can do?
I drink probably 3 litres a day. I eat very well. I train 4 or 5 times a week. I do pads. I do, I'll run. Look, mentally, you can't train for that because you don't know what issue. Don't get me wrong, it helps. And going on a bag for 20 minutes when you're filled with that anger, absolutely. You come off a bag and you want to hug everyone. So that's great. But when you wake up at 3 a.m. and you've got some serious issues hitting you, and it's dark and you're sitting there on your own, and your kids are asleep and your wife's asleep and you're sitting there on your own, you're lying there, you're thinking, Jesus Christ, how do I pay that bill?
Yeah.
How do I... Before lockdown, our wages was £1 million a month. Wow. So what you're going to remember is, we never worked for 3 weeks before. Where did we drive in the revenue to pay the £1 million? Wow. And so, you're sitting there, you're thinking, the buck stops with me and nobody else, It's not like Joe can go, we haven't got our money this month, government give us the money. It doesn't, all down to me. I found an awful lot of people who supposedly supported me just went by the wayside. And people like Brian, Mr. Old Dole Street, I speak to him every day, and I find more solace talking to him.
Top guy in Brian.
And he just tells you the way it is, and people like that.
Transparency, just
total
authenticity.
And he doesn't want none of me, And I think my friendship circle now has decreased to naught. And I find it easier because what happens when you're more successful, the friendships around you will draw on your magic, if you like, even though it's not magic, but they think it is. And as soon as that magic goes, they run a mile. When really that's when you need your friends, is when you fall.
So they say, don't they, when you're coming up, you lose friends. So have you had that as well?
I've had it always. I think friendships can fall down through jealousy. And you know, I'm sure we've all seen that.
He's changed him.
Yeah.
No, you
Forgot
haven't
himself.
changed. You've changed towards me. That's what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that, you know, you've got that friendship thing where there's a jealousy, and then you got that friendship thing where there's where's mine.
Yeah.
And then when, you know, businesses, it's an awful, tough environment to be in. And you know, you talk about mental state. I'm ready for anything. I'll argue, fight, I don't care. But I'll stand my ground. I know what's right and know what's wrong. And I'll stand my ground. So once you know you've done the right thing, or as best you can, I think your mental state falls in line. If I know I've done something wrong, I'll be the first to admit it.
Is that where the saying comes from? At least I can sleep at night? Because,
An awful lot of people will look for reasons as to why you are successful and they're not. And will, like someone will say to you, can I lend 10 grand or whatever, and you give them 10 grand, then you want it back. It's like, what do you want it for?
Yeah.
You're loaded on it. You know, like it's that, and then you're the arsehole for asking for it back. So,
when I was growing up, Lawrence, my parents used to say, you know why you wear skins? Because rich people, they don't spend the money, and we're kind and we spend all ours.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and you believe that growing up? You think it's mad, that, isn't it? So rich people don't spend nothing, and we.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
mad, isn't it? It's something
You get a tip in the barbers, you get a tip off him? No, you're fucking joking, aren't you? Like, rich people come in, you and get a tip off them.
because you've got a barber's, that's his little tip to try and get a tip.
I know, yeah.
Still working on tips now.
Lawrence, we're going to have to bring this to an end soon, but I think one thing I've noticed, because like all our guests I've had, they're in different industries, whether they're actors, boxers, this, but there's a common thing, isn't it? And the same things keep coming up, if you noticed. Your story is not over yet, is it? It's going to get...
I'm going to start singing, we won't just begun.
I know. No, but it is, it's like... I think
He
like,
won't know what that is, by the way. He looked
I feel like singing it.
We just begun. No, but it's like, I think
You tried it, didn't you? You really tried then.
I don't have to try. It just comes. No, but yeah, be interesting, you know, come back next year if that's all right.
As the mayor. Where can we
No,
find...
I'm a big
No, I think...
By the way, the mayor's up in May, and it will be a Labour candidate who gets it.
Where can we
Go
find...
for it, Jess.
I was thinking that then. I was going to backdoor you then, long ago.
I'm not going for it. I've got too many battles to fight on my side of the fence, haven't I?
Yeah, so people who are watching us, where can they find you, and where can they follow your next step in your journey to?
Yeah, I'm not really on anything anymore. I am on Facebook, but I don't go on it, and I am on Instagram, and I don't go on there. So I've gone quiet recently because I've been getting abused and attacked by the council and various other factions. So I've just stayed quiet and just got on with my job, and hopefully one day we'll come out and we'll go, that COVID was tough, wasn't it? And then hopefully I'll be vocal again. This is the first time I've spoken over a year.
Thank you.
Very privileged.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next time on the How Are We Famalam podcast, we speak to Jamie Webster.
At what point, Jay, did you say, I'm good at this, I've got something here?
It was when my mum and dad walked past the bedroom, and I'd started singing and playing the guitar. And my mum had always said to me when I was a kid, I always remember saying, like, I want you to play Mrs. Robinson one day, do you know what I mean? I loved that song and all that. It wasn't Mrs. Robinson that I was playing because it was too hard for me to learn at the moment in time. You know, I think it was like I'm Out of Time by Oasis, off like their last album that they ever released.
Right.
And I was sat there playing it, and it was just like sort of one strum and singing, do you know what I mean? And then my mum and dad opened the door and were like,
Oh, yeah.
like, that you singing then, you know what I mean? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, good that, you know, like, do you know what I mean? You should, like, keep going with it. And like, so then, they were like, do you know anymore? So we started playing a couple of songs that I'd learned, and then just started learning, like, obviously you listen to more music, you're like, I want to learn that, and then just sing it. And then someone told me, I was like, me singing, I used to want to sound like Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, like that, you know what I mean? And then I finally got the courage to play them to a couple of my mates. and they were like, yeah, that's fucking sound, that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
And that just started to fill your confidence up a
like,
bit.
I knew that like these sort of people would tell me if I was shite, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like even now, like, you know what I mean, like that, like me mates bring me down to earth with a tud, you know what I mean?
So it was like your mind made up. It's like, finally,
Yeah,
he's on it now. He's on
Yeah.
it.
Faster Car Finance provide a smooth, hassle-free way for you to apply for car finance and to get the vehicle of your choice. Whether you have good or bad credit, no deposit is required. A decision is reached within minutes, and one of our dedicated finance advisors will be available to discuss your requirements. Apply now at www.fastercarfinance.co.uk.